Good morning. Welcome to Daily Devotions with me, Pastor Stephen, pastor of Family Worship Center, and your pastor of the Northwoods. It's good to be back. Took a break from making videos as I was on vacation with my family. It's spring break where I'm from, and so it was fun to take the kids and just go have a blast. Just have a ton of fun doing that. And we're back. We're home. Made it safe. That was some crazy driving conditions on the way there, and then of course it was raining on the way back. So my it's so weird to you can drive long distances on the road and then you're like tired or whatever, but when you're driving long distances and it's kind of not good weather, like you're almost sore when you come back. I don't know if it's because you've just been so tight, you know. I can definitely feel it here, so I think that's definitely the case, but here we are. Well, let's just jump right in. We're in Hebrews 12:2 today. Really looking like we're at the second verse here in the whole chapter, and it's the end of a single sentence. So we're gonna hit that full context button here in a moment. But the verse in question reads as such: "Fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God." I think the really cool portion of this scripture is to focus on this part right here. We have the account of what happened. We in the Gospels we read about the enduring of the cross, the scorning the shame, and then in Acts he ascended to heaven, right? Excuse me. There we go. The pioneer and the perfecter of faith. It doesn't say our faith, it just says faith in general. Because, Jesus had faith in God the Father as well. And I think what's cool about him being not just described as the perfecter, but being described as the pioneer. So, I mean, this is, what I'm about to say is very Sunday school level of teaching, because it's so excellent and it needs to be written on our hearts, is that when we want to model our lives, we look to Jesus. And more so than he's perfect and we should look at him, it's that when we look at Jesus, he pioneered. He went where no one else had gone yet, right? He was going to places that people hadn't thought about or were unable to or were imperfect in doing so. And so he pioneered a movement. He pushed forward the message, the good news, right? And then through that pioneering, right, he pioneered and he perfected. He was a perfecter of faith. And so when we look at Jesus, we can look at his life and go, he pioneered something. He really took us, he took it and said, I'm going to lead, I'm going to go where you need to go. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to push forward, do it. And in doing so, I'm going to perfect faith. And so we can look at Jesus and say, man, how do I grow faith? What does faith look like? We can look to Jesus and see what perfect faith looks like and really study how he pioneered that. So I think that's just I really like this combo of words here. I just wanted to bring that up. Full chapter. Oh, there's that therefore. All right, so where this is not a finished thought, right? Or this isn't the start of a new thought. This is in response to one. So we're actually going to go back one chapter. Okay, here we go. Faith in action. I was looking for a break. I was doing it really quickly, but you can tell just by faith, faith, all these people by faith. You can tell that we have a really set up thought process that's going to be coming here in our key verse here in Hebrews 12:2. But it starts here. Honestly, it probably starts a little bit earlier, but this is the break I was looking for. We have the definition of faith Faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. This is what the ancients were commended for. By faith, we understand that the universe was formed by God's command, so that what is seen was not made out of what was visible, right? And so we have the ancients about to be up. Abel, Enoch, Noah, Abraham, right? All these people were still living by faith when they died. Abraham again, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, Moses some more. You get it, right? By faith, Moses, and then we have Rahab. What more? And so then it's just setting up that account, right? And what more shall I say? I do not have time to tell you about Gideon, Barak, Samson, Jephthah, David, Samuel, the prophets, conquering kingdoms, all that stuff. So we have this long list of people in which he's building to this crescendo, right? These were all commended for their faith, yet none of them received what had been promised, since God had planned something better for us, that only together with us would they be made perfect. So I think he's really talking like the intended audience here, who has great respect for what has happened, okay? He's bringing up a ton of history that we the readers know potentially, but the intended audience who's getting talked to also knew. So it's not that they didn't know about Abel and they didn't know about Enoch or Noah. They knew about all these figures. They very well versed, very well studied. They understood it, right? So it's not that he gave the cliff notes so everyone understood. He gave the cliff notes because he was just like, I'm about to hit you hard, and I want to prep you for what I'm about to say. All of these people were commended their faith, yet none of them received what they had been promised, since God had planned something better for us, that only we would be made, so that only together with us would they be made perfect. So all of that, and he said God has something planned better. All right, so here we go. Therefore, there's a dog behind me. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinners, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. This verse is the completion. I almost kind of wish this was part of chapter 11, to be honest. I don't know why, but I'm not going to get into that either. But either way, this is why when we read, we look for words that kind of point us where we should start. Anyway, this paragraph, that verse, the talking about the pioneering and the perfecting, bringing up what Jesus did, considering Jesus who endured the opposition from sinners, so that we will not grow weary and lose heart, is the speaker trying to encourage the readers and the audience that Jesus is in fact the way, the truth, and the life, and no one gets to the Father except through him. Jesus is the pioneer. He's the perfecter of faith. Not that he perfected what faith looks like. And so we should look to Jesus. We no longer need to look to Abel and Abraham and Moses and everyone else and David. Because in all of those people, as great as they were, as great as some of their accomplishments were, as much as God used those people to a degree that we're still talking about them thousands of years later, right? That's an incredible degree, incredible resume, but it's not good enough. It's not what saves us. It's not our model. We can look at their lives and we can see where they were short, where they sinned. And there's something greatly humanizing about that in which we can relate, right? I can read Moses' story and see his reluctance and attitude, really, his sassiness towards God to even enter the ministry. And I can look at that and go, man, I was pretty sassy at God too when I was called to the ministry. I didn't want to do it. I talked back. I resisted. I kind of had a Moses experience. Like, so there's that humanizing aspect that allows me to really empathize and sympathize. But that's not perfection. And God says, I'm going to give you the way to me, and it's going to be my son Jesus. He's going to pioneer, and he's going to be perfect, so that you do have a sacrifice that covers sin to, yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Man, that's good. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinners, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. Right there. You will not grow weary and lose heart. I think, and once again, what I'm about to say is not fair, but it doesn't change how I feel, right? And when you have a mentor in your life, someone that you've trusted, learned from, and really observed, and want to live like they do as an example. Now, if it's a mentor relationship, they are in essence on a pedestal. And some people can be like, well, don't put me on a pedestal. It's like, well, you are on a pedestal if the relationship is mentor-mentee, right? Like that's just the reality of it. And it's, my son puts me on a pedestal because the relationship is father and son. And, I'm leading him, I'm leading discipline, I'm leading encouragement, all that stuff. And so in my failings, that can affect who's observing greatly. And same with a mentor-mentee, right? And so when you have someone that you are being mentored from and they have a failing, that can really hit a person very hard that is trying to follow that example. And like I said, I'm not, like, hey, that's not fair. You're right. It may not be fair, but that's just how relationships work sometimes. Like, this is how subconsciously things are set up. And we can grow weary and lose heart that way when we follow people that aren't perfect. And I'm not perfect either. And I know that I've let some people down in my life. It's a reality. And I'm not trying to be like, get over it, I'm a failure too. I try to strive to be better, but it's just that's that constant ebb and flow with life. And the speaker here, and what I'm trying to speak to you as well, is that when we consider Jesus, when we consider him who endured such opposition from sinners, because he was a pioneer and perfecter of faith, because he lived the life without sin, fulfilled the law, we can follow that and not grow weary and lose heart. He didn't fail, and he won't fail. So we don't have to have this reservation in our souls or our minds or our hearts that I have to have insurance for when he fails, because he won't, and he doesn't, and he can't. And it's like that's really reassuring for the believer, that all of this we can consider Jesus so that we will not grow weary and lose heart. And I think that's just so important for the believer, because as long as we have a sliver of hope for what's coming today and tomorrow, we can push forward. So that's what I'll leave you guys with today. Hebrews 12:2, and a little bit of extra. Fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith, for the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. All right. That's been Daily Devotions with me, Pastor Stephen, Pastor Family Worship Center, as well as your pastor of the Northwoods. And glad to be back, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow's devotion. So I will see you there. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.